Makya, papipita ka humiga. Ha? Huwag ka ulak ka, papipita ka humiga. mo na yung cake ha. Busin mo na. Ayun. Ayun o. Ayun o. Tatabi ko na ito ano ha. Yung cake mo dito. So, kakainin niya pa ba talaga? Hindi niya, ayun na. Ayan. Kapag-water mo.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Show Must Go On Season 2, a project of the UP Voice and Music Theater Guild in partnership with the UP College of Music Student Council and Rit Mueller and Kaiserburg Pianos. I am Sheila Ferrer.
And I'm Lawrence Rondo, and we are your hosts for tonight's show. So just a little background, the UPVMTG is an organization of voice majors and singing enthusiasts established in 2009 under the chairmanship of Professor Catherine Molina. Its mission is to bring vocal music to fellow Filipinos for greater appreciation of the performing arts through projects, outreach programs, and concerts. So for last week's episode, we commemorated the 35th anniversary of the EDSA People Power Revolution with our guest professor, Edru Abraham. Ano naman ang pakulo natin tonight, Sheila?
Yes, so for tonight's The Show Must Go On, we will be celebrating all women because March is International Women's Month. And last March 8, we just celebrated International Women's Day. So happy International Women's Day po sa lahat. Tonight is going to be an incredible night of all-female compositions and conversations. Of course, TSMGO will not be complete without our speaker.
Yes, and it is with great pride that I introduce to you our speaker for tonight. Professor Elena Mirano has a Bachelor of Arts in English, a Master of Arts in Comparative Literature, and a Doctor of Philosophy in Philippine Studies from UP Diliman. She also has a Master of Arts in Humanities from Stanford University. She served as Chair of the Department of Art Studies from 2006 to 2009 and Dean of the College of Arts and Letters from 2009 to 2015. As a researcher in the traditional culture of the Southern Tagalog region, Professor Mirano has authored Subli, One Dance in Four Voices, Subli, isang sayaw sa apat na tinig ang mga tradisyonal na musikang pantinig sa lumang Bawan, Batangas, The Life and Works of Marcelo Adonay, and Performance Notes. She served as research director for the Philippine program at the 1998 Smithsonian Folklife Festival, in Washington, D.C., and the Batangas City Museum. In the domain of the performing arts, she produced and was also the featured performer of the recording album Kumintang, Awitin ng mga Tagalog na taga Batangas. As director of the Cherubim and Seraphim, the official children's choir of the University of the Philippines in Diliman, she commissioned the theater piece Awit ni Pulao with music by Ramon P. Santos and libretto by Edgardo Maranan. She also conceptualizes and directs the group's annual summer program of workshops and concert tours. Professor Mirano is currently a professor emeritus of art studies at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. Let us all welcome Professor Elena Mirano.
Yay, heart reacts naman po dyan. Hello po, good evening po, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
So, kamusta po kayo, ma'am?
Siyempre nasa bahay, ano? With everybody else.
Opo. Kamusta naman po yung pag-start ng SEM ngayon?
I no longer teach, but yung time ko is devoted really to writing and performance. So this last year, we were able to finish one virtual concert ng UP Cherubim, which we did last September, no? And then we have I just posted, siguro mga 1 week ago, a blog on the writings I've had in this last year, which is entitled Music and Faith in the Time of COVID-19.
Wow.
It's online. Both of these are online.
Sige po.
So, talagang it was a shift, no? It was a shift from yung face-to-face to the internet, and it takes a lot of parang adjustment, no?
Yes po.
Yes.
But we have to, no? If we are to remain productive.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, yung bongga nga pala nung opening number natin by the Wani Women's Choir. So, what a great way to open our show tonight. Girl power talaga. So, ma'am, since we're celebrating Women's Month po for this show, what is Women's Month po ba? Paano po ba ito nag-start?
You know, it has a very long history, by the way. 1911, yung first celebration ng Women's Day. And it was really, yung International Women's Day was a result of the efforts of the feminists of, I would say, the third wave na siguro yan of feminism, no? In the West. Pilipinas, iba ang experience, but that day was set aside because the the people that wanted to focus on women wanted to win yung equality of women, particularly in the workplace, yung mga factory workers, etc. And then one of the reasons why it became such a big thing was because soon after it was celebrated, there was a big factory fire, and so many women died because they were trapped in the building. And so yung labor yung para bang yung labor conditions ng women, those were the things that they were focused on at that time. Iba-iba kasi yung concerns ng women in the different parts of history. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for those insights. So now at this point, we will be hearing the works of Pauline Viardot, Nadia Boulanger, and Sherry Porterfield. Let us all welcome Nika Lopez, Michelle Mariposa, and Sheila Ferrer.
The gentle wind doth move, the gentle wind doth move so silently, so silently, move so silently,
Wow, what a beautiful performances of works by French and American women composers from the late 19th and late 20th century.
Yes, I agree. So, ma'am, since we are also celebrating women in the classical music scene, who were the forerunners of women in classical music in the history of music? How were they received by the people? And like, has there been any distinction or bias against or for women in classical music?
Okay, let me put it this way, and I'll give you a little history. No, we are coming in from the West, hindi ba? This is European, French, Italian, Spanish music. If you're dealing with these people in the 18th, 19th, 20th century, early 20th century, you will notice that the dominant element as far as gender is concerned is the patriarchy. That means women were really limited in the roles that they could play. Society said, no, women cannot do this. However, there was a place for women in theater, for example, and in the arts, mostly as performers, opera singers, right? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
ballerinas, the famous ballerinas of the where people would mob them in. So there is a place for women now, but however, it's mostly as performers. But you do find, like Viardo, from the high romantic period, you will find women composers, no? And it's very interesting to note about Pauline Viardot because she was the colleague and good friend of Frédéric Chopin, who she played together with, and his ano ba yon? Hindi naman mistress, his partner, I guess. George Sand was a very famous poetess, and she was a feminist in the, I guess you would say, the second wave or maybe even the first wave. No, kasi she if you know her figure, she's the one that's always dressed up in men's clothing.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a poet, and then she smokes, no? So she was the very good friend of Viardot, and in fact, she was the one that was essential in deciding who Viardot was going to marry. Kasi ang nanliligaw diyan kay Viardot, chismis na to, no? Ang nanliligaw kay Viardot was the poet, de Musset. But there was another suitor. Okay, and he was the manager, or he was a very high official in the French theater scene. And so si George Sand, magaling talaga yung babaeng yun, told her, no, you marry this guy, not the poet. That guy will never get you anywhere. So she married this really powerful man who got her the best roles, who made sure that her music was played. And that is why she became very, very, very important. And she was able to produce that kind of music, that gorgeous music. Yung lamento is really gorgeous, no? It's the question of power kasi. She was able to tap into the source of power, which is something many women were not able to do. Another woman, is Clara Schumann. Clara Schumann did not compose music, but she was the one that pushed the music of her husband. And she also inspired Brahms, who fell in love with her, pero ayaw na niya mag-asawa kasi ang dami-dami na niyang anak eh. No? So you have these women figures during that high romantic period. Then later you have the sisters, the Boulanger sisters. marvelous, no? Students of Gabriel Fauré. So this is around the Impressionist period, post-Impressionist, and they have this gorgeous music that just floats, It's starting to release itself already from the tonal system. Whereas si Viardo, medyo, romantic, nasa harmony pa, no?
Yes.
Pero sila nagfo-float na sila. Ang ganda talaga. I am particularly in love with Lily, the sister. Kasi Nadia is the more famous because she became the conductor, no? But the one that has the really gorgeous music is the sister, Lily. You have to listen to her, and she's on YouTube. I have made her acquaintance, and it's really gorgeous. So that's what I can say. There have been women figures, but many times it's a question of power relations. Do these women have access to power or don't they? Does that answer the question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Definitely.
ma'am. Wow, thank you for that, ma'am. So, hanggang ngayon po ba, meron pa rin po bang prejudice towards women working in classical music?
Okay, may mga holdouts, di ba? Of late, you find many more women actually composing, etc. But you will find pockets. Pockets of machismo. Even in UP, you have pockets of machismo in some larangan.
Yes.
So, I don't know. Sometimes you'll find it in the composition departments. No? Yeah.
So, yes, a follow-up question po, ma'am. So, did women in classical music affect history overall outside the world of music? For example, during that time, meron po ba mga na-establish na women's rights laws because of women's compositions, for example?
I don't know about compositions of women. I suppose it was a collective effort among women to enact laws to give equal rights for suffrage, for pero hindi ako makapinpoint ng specific pieces of music that would lead to that. So yung mga kwento ko about Viardo, that some of that reached the Philippines. You would have all these famous opera companies coming to the Philippines. They were yung ganyan, and then there were also opera stars in the Philippines and zarzuela stars, no?
Yes.
And so some of them were really celebrated. The one that goes well into the 20th century is Atang de la Rama, but there's Maria Carpena, no? Who really was a sensation during her time. As far as composers, there's Dolores Paterno. Yes, okay. I don't know if you're familiar with Dolores Paterno, but she wrote La Flor de Manila, which we know as Sampaguita. She and her three sisters, Adela yata yung isa, ano pa bang pangalan ng isa? Basta tatlo sila. Two of them were painters. And they're quite well known now. They were turn of the century sila. Si Dolores Paterno was also a composer. So the one that remains for her is the La Flor de Manila. So dito sa Pilipinas, meron din tayong gano'n.
So, ma'am, in your opinion, well, of course, the level of pagtingin sa women before and now is very much different, but there is still some form of inferiority.
You know, it depends on where you are in the world. The Philippines does not have, well, we do have a patriarchal system because of the Spanish colonizer. But even stronger, I think, than that is what they call in anthropology the bilateral system of power. Kasi sa ancient Philippines, and I think leading all the way into the present, power is always considered bilateral. You trace your kinship through your father and your mother. And so in for example, if you go to the mountain province, yung granary gods nila, yung mga bulol nila, you always have a male and a female figure. Their gods are not just male. They are always male and female. And then in the other groups, for example, the image of power is this. In the Highland cultures, men are the warriors, women are weavers and healers. So spiritual power for women, and then yung power in battle for the men. And then, in fact, weaving, which is a female occupation, is considered the warpath of women because the women weave. They dye, D-Y-E, and they know what dyes to use. They know what part of, mga chemists yan. They know what parts of the natural world to get their dyes from. And they dye the fabrics of their, the textiles of their warriors. So unless a warrior is wearing the proper color, deep red, if he's a high warrior, light red or pinkish red if he is a just baguettes, he will not be invested with power. And it is the women who do that. So you have that equality of power among women and men in traditional culture. And I think it carries also into even the lowland Christian. Kasi alam mo, ang larangan ko is Katagalugan. And in Katagalugan, you always have two. Exchanges are between men and women, both of whom know how to improvise and sing. The improvisation is literary. They know how to create rhythms and rhymes, poetry. Both the men and the women, naglalabanan sila. Pagkatapos nun, you will also have in Subli, for example, which is what I studied, the women, there are men leaders and women leaders. The women are called the matrimayo, and they have memorized the entire devotion. So memoryado nila lahat ng mga words, lahat ng prayers, etc., and they dance. The men, parang mas warrior ang look nila. So when they dance, they look like yung mga warriors, Parang nag-aarnis sila, So it's very interesting if you're coming from traditional culture na Filipino, and I think it remains, our women are still very powerful. There's never been anything against them being rulers. You've had women generals in the Revolutionary War. You have had women executives. I mean, we've had how many female presidents? Ang US. Hindi sila makaabot sa sa vice president. Ngayon pa lang. So yung idea ng what a woman is quite different in culture. And I think you see this. I think you see this also.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as difficult as in the West where talagang ang lakas ng resistance against women holding power. Hanggang ngayon, di ba hanggang ngayon?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So is it safe to say po, ma'am, that the Philippine culture or views on women persisted even after the colonization of Western countries?
They are there. Think of your mothers. Are they weak? Do they consider themselves inferior to men? Does it stop them from running a business? Of course not. Filipina women have always been very strong.
Super agree. Thank you for those insights, ma'am. Yes. Okay, so since we have talked about nasa Pilipinas na tayo, so at this point, we will be hearing works from female composers in the Philippines. These are songs from Casilag's 5 Philippine folk songs in 1957 and an arrangement by Priscilla Magadamo Abraham to be performed by Leslie Abordo, Daniela Silab, and Maria Kirkhamp.
Ohoy, alibang-bang kun ikaw magalupad, tatapon usang maayo ang tanan-tanan nga bulak. Basi sa ulihi kun ikaw ay malipad, pobre santa pulanga sa duta ay matagak. Ang alibang-bang ay naglupad-lupad sa mga dahanan ng ilik-ilik. Sedang saya bordado ang nahagwas, unayang baliog sa payong di Paris. Alibang-bang nagalupad sa mga dahanan, sedang saya bordado ang nahagwas, unayang baliog sa payong di Paris. Dito sa Pinungsan, madamong moda, kulong ang buhok, laso nila pula. Kung tulok-tulokon daw makulbaan ka, punong nimo sadto sing umariposa. Senyora Matilde, matahong-tahong, daw tubi sa lana ang iyang kasubong. Ukdan sang korte kag ang iyang bayhon, porbida panonoy, walay kamatayon.
Wow, what a great performances of by Leslie, Daniela, and Miss Maria Horcamp. Yes. So, ma'am, paano po ba natin makikita ang femininity sa isang music? For example po sa work ni Lucrecia Casilag.
I really wouldn't use that word kasi women cannot be bound to a concept of femininity. There are different kinds of women and a whole range of female experience, ano? So to call it what makes a piece of music feminine? You're going to ibabox mo yung babae sa isang box. Hindi naman ganun eh. But if for example you're asking me what makes Lucrecia Casilag really stunning, I will just compare her to two of her contemporaries, no? Si Eliseo Pajaro, who belongs to the same generation, and Jose Maceda. They're all the same age, no? That's my mother's generation. I grew up with them. At any rate, if you will look at what they bring to their music, there are many things that are similar, no? Si Eliseo Pajaro really took the folk song and he applied to it the techniques in composition which you will find during the 1950s and 60s because that's the time they studied abroad, you know. So if you will listen to a lot of his vocal music, it's really based on the folk song, no? Yes. Casilag can do the same thing kasi yung chichirit-chit niya also is similar to Pajaro. It uses the techniques of the Eastman School where I think they both studied there, no? And then they use this very ano ba ito? It's already modern, very modern technique na, no? Na merong parallel fifths moving, a lot of dissonance, etc. Parallel fourths and fifths, very strong rhythms, etc. No? So in that sense, they're the same. But I heard something from Casilag which is different from Pajaro. I listened to a toccata which they did not play. It's beautiful work, huh? It's for percussion, wind instruments, and Muslim gong music. No, so you would have Kulintangan Ensemble. And I really like the way she masses yung mga sounds together. Merong masses dito, tapos i-regroup niyang ganito, tapos gagawin na naman niya dyan. At saka, alam niya yung kulintang music. She knows what it sounds like.
Oh.
And so when you play that, it's a bigger world actually than yung kay Paharo. I find, Ngayon, if you compare her to Jose Maceda, ibang-iba si Maceda because si Maceda is very conceptual. He does not have an interest in yung sensuous beauty of line and yung mga melodic and rhythmic. Iba si Maceda. So in that sense, pareho silang nakaka-recognize sila ng indigenous music. They are aware of it and how it is built. But they're very different in sensibility. Now, I would not say that that's the difference between the masculine and the feminine. No, I don't think so. I think they're just different people. So, sa akin, women have a sensibility. Of course, women have a bit of a different sensibility than men kasi we're the ones that bring up children. We're the ones that, yan ang larangan ng babae. Pero I think they can do anything they want to do. Kasi si Miss Casilag was single. She became the dean of the College of Music, Conservatory College of Music, School of Music of PWU very early on. And then she became the president of CCP. So she handled all those things, no? And she never had a family. So there are women and there are women. Okay?
Yes.
Follow-up question po, ma'am. I'm just curious.
Yes.
So, yung mga female composers po ba, are they like more emotional, shall I say, when they compose?
Kasilag is quite organized, and very grabe yung organizational skill niya. It's only when I listened to Toccata that I really appreciated her. Isang ganda ng pagbuo niya, no? Very well thought out. Ngayon, another thing that there is a difference in is, among different women, is the difference in sensibility. Kasi, di ba, did you play the, already? Yung kay Magdamo? Priscilla Magdamo is my teacher. She coached me. When I was still singing, no? And si Magdamo's background is very different. She's a folk singer. Kasi her parents are Ilonggo. And both of them sing guitar and traditional. And then she inherited that knowledge. And then she did field work. But she was also a performer. So her compositions register that kind of sensibility of somebody who's really very much in tune with yung tradition ng Ilonggo and Bisaya music, no? And you can see that in the music. It's gorgeous also, and very well thought out. She's very precise in the way she interprets things. So I think it's different from woman to woman.
Okay. Yes. So, ma'am, kanina po na pag-usapan na natin yung way of treating women or pagtingin sa women dito sa Pilipinas versus abroad. Ngayon naman po, let's be specific. Is there any difference naman sa pagtingin ng mga tao sa classical women musicians dito sa Pilipinas? For example, conductors, composers versus, for example, sa United States, sa Europe?
I don't know how it is in the United States and Europe ngayon. Sa tingin ko, pareho na eh. Pareho. Kasi here, ang daming women choir directors na major, hindi ba? Alongside the men, no? And then composers, we have women composers, although they're younger, no? Except for Casilag, kasi Casilag was kind of unique in her generation. Magdamo did not stay here long. She left and she lived in the United States for most of her life. She's still alive, by the way. I still correspond with her. She's still driven. She still performs, and she's well into her 80s. She still sings. So, ibang klase siya. So, I don't know. Ang Pilipinas is quite, it's quite a good area to be a woman as an artist. I think it's open to that. I think in Europe, it's also like that ngayon. I mean, all over the world, I think.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
are on a different level already than, let's say, si Nadia Boulanger or
Yes. Parang wala naman pong discrimination
wala naman
sa
siguro.
music scene, no? Sa
Not really.
women.
Very subtle lang, because we still have sexism in our society. So sometimes it emerges again and again. But yeah.
Mhm. Yes. Also, I'm curious po ako, do you think there are women who think that, for example, a conductor is a job for the men, or being a composer is a job for the men?
Hindi na siguro. Hindi na siguro. Even in my mother's generation, tatapang na ng mga babae. So, I think that went out with the 19th century. 20th century, iba na eh. Iba na yung pananaw.
Yeah.
Yes. So, paano po ba natin, what can we do to further the progress of women in the classical music industry, whether as individuals or as a society?
Hire them.
Hire them. Yeah.
That's
In a
true.
meritocracy, no? Kailangan meritocracy no ha? So you don't hire them because of how they look. Alam mo, I will tell you a little story. In the 1950s, I was very small, Diyan sa College of Music. During that time, there was no maternity leave and no security of tenure. And so, the young women na teachers there, the professors there, if they got pregnant, they could lose their jobs. I know, because it happened to two really well-known professors at that time. One of them became a national artist, They got pregnant at the same time. And so the director said, sige, I don't want to keep this person, so I will have to terminate you. So they were almost terminated. Pero pinaglaban nila yan. They went to court. This is in the College of Music. This was in 1954. So that is a definite example of how far we have got. Can we terminate because somebody's going on maternity leave now? No more. Diba? Can we terminate because somebody is a woman when you are supposed to make, to give tenure? Hindi na pwede diba? We are protected by law already. So we have come a long way.
Yes.
So, yes, thank you, ma'am, for wonderful insights po about
My
women
pleasure.
empowerment. So, can you give us, ma'am, closing remarks po about women empowerment, lalo na po sa classical music scene dito sa Philippines?
Women have always had a very an active part in the dissemination and the performance of music. And they will always continue. The fight lies in the power positions, to give women the right to hold on to positions, to have positions of power, to determine the directions of programs, for example, in the schools. I think we're kind of there now. There's a lot of things going on undercurrents. There's still a lot of machismo. There's sexual harassment in the workplace. You sort of hear about these things, hindi ba? But that is where the fight is now yata, hindi ba? It's in sexual harassment, it's in gender harassment. But so those have to be faced, whether in the College of Music or in the whole system of music or in the international entertainment industry. And so we still have our fights cut out for us. But I think, the fight is worth it.
Yes.
That's
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. What a great night of music and an insightful look into women in classical music.
I totally agree. Yes. Personally, ang dami kong natutunan tonight kahit
Yes.
very short lang yung program. So thank you so much, ma'am, for giving for sharing your knowledge to us. Yeah, to record this occasion, pwede po ba kami magpa-picture kasama nyo?
Sino bang mag-pictures? Sige, ako na. Si Nelson. Okay.
Okay.
Yay! So, thank you everyone for tuning in to tonight's show. Again, we would like to thank our special guest, Ma'am Elena, for gracing us with your presence and for generously sharing your knowledge and expertise to us. It was an honor having you po here to join us in celebrating Women's Month. Once again, I'm Sheila Ferrer.
And I'm Lawrence Rondo. This is The Show Must Go On Season 2, brought to you by the UP Voice and Music Theater Guild in partnership with the UP College of Music, Ritmula, and Kaiserburg Pianos.
We hope to see you again next week for another episode of The Show Must Go On Season 2. We will be reflecting for the Lent season with sacred music.
And before we finally end the show, we present to you one final number. We would like to dedicate this to all women around the world. This is Waray Waray, performed by the UPVMTG. Thank you, and have a good night, everyone.
Waray-waray, hindi tatakas. Waray-waray, handang matodas. Waray-waray, bahala bukas. Waray-waray, manigas. Waray-waray, tawag sa ako sa bakbakan. Dili uurong sa sinuman ang humahamon. Kahit ikaw ay matol, di ka sa akin para luman. Kami palagi mapagbigay, ngunit iba ang waray-waray. Walang singap kaniluman. Kaming babaeng waray-waray ay siga-siga kahit saan, pagkat kami ay lumalaban. Kapag hinamon ang away, waray-waray, hindi tatakas. Waray-waray, handang matodas. Waray-waray, bahala bukas. Waray-waray, manigas. Waray-waray, 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 ka sa aking paraluman. Kami palagi mapagbigay, ngunit iba ang waray-waray. Walang sindak kaniluman. Kami babaeng waray-waray ay siga-siga kahit saan.